I'm here with Coach Mo, Director of Instruction at St. John's Country Club in Florida and host of the Coach Mo Golf Show podcast. How are you doing today, Coach Mo?
I'm doing phenomenal. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, absolutely. You have a cool story. You do a lot for the game of golf as a director of instruction, and you have a really cool podcast. So I'm glad to have you on.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, so you go by Coach Mo, but I'm interested. Can you pronounce your full name for me? Because I know I want to
Uh,
try that.
it's Monique Jeswaldi.
Nice. Yeah, but Coach Mo is a lot better, I think.
It's a lot easier. You can
Yeah.
spell it. You can say it short and sweet.
Yeah, so you're director of instruction at St. John's Country Club there in St. Augustine, Florida, right by Jacksonville.
Yes.
Yeah, can you tell me a little bit about the golf academy at St. John's?
Sure. So, St. John's Golf and Country Club, like you said, it's in St. Augustine, Florida. It's semi-private, so there's a membership, but also allows public play. And they had a golf academy behind it for I guess the last 13 or probably 14, 15 years. And a few years ago, the club wanted to have that academy as part of the club. And so that allowed me to apply for the position of director of instruction there. And so I got that, I guess it was back in 2021. So we're going on, I've been there at the club over 4 years, but the golf academy at St. John's is a little bit newer. So that's the last 2.5 years or so.
Yeah, so can you tell me a little bit about St. John's Country Club and what drew you to, becoming director of instruction there?
Sure. So I moved down to Florida about 5 years ago for the director of instruction to run a golf academy, that the previous golf academy that was there. And like I said, the club wanted to have the academy. And so they were hiring for that position. So we were already back there, but that didn't mean we were going to necessarily get that job. So I went through the interview process, and the why is I love working at the golf academy. I love running the golf academy. It's really cool. We teach so many different programs. So I get to I have a college prep program there where I work with pretty serious juniors who are interested in playing at the collegiate level or higher, but then also do private instruction. And then I have three other instructors, John, Jeff, and Tim, who each do instruction in different groups and programs. So we basically teach kids as early as 5 years old, going all the way up to 85 years old. So depending on, doesn't matter what your skill level is or what you're looking to get out of golf. Between the four of us in our programs, we're able to help everyone.
Nice. So can you tell me, what is it like for you to be a director of instruction? And just tell me a little bit about all, the duties and
Ooh,
responsibilities that you have at your club,
sure.
as
Yeah.
director of instruction.
It's a lot of duties for our club, I think, because we're so active. So we do a lot of volume, we do a lot of instruction. So looking at all my duties, let's see, I got to manage my staff. I got to make sure they're taken care of, their programming, all their stuff is in line. All the billing and financials I have to take care of. The fitting days, all my students and clients, and then also the relationship between the golf academy and the other departments. So events, food and beverage, the golf shop, all these things. So there's a manager role in that. And then, when I'm done with those manager duties, then I'm a coach, and I'm out there teaching and instructing and getting on the lesson tee just like any other coach.
So you're a golf coach. I'm sure it's a big passion for you, being a coach, but what do you enjoy most about getting to be a golf coach?
Golf coaching, it's incredible. And I think I was a player, and so my playing career ended after college, and I grew up so competitive, playing so many different sports. Like I love sports. And so I tried to do the 9 to 5 office job when I graduated college, and I quickly found out that wasn't for me. And I wanted to kind of get back to get back to golf. And so first, it was going through and getting all my instructional certificates through the LPGA and PGA. And at first, initially, I was just an instructor, working assistant professional jobs at different clubs in Connecticut, North Carolina, and then down here. And as I kind of evolved in my professional role, I figured out through kind of process of elimination that I didn't really like everything about being an assistant golf pro. And originally I thought I wanted to be like a head pro. And what I found out as I started teaching more and more is I really found my passion in teaching. I felt like the ceiling was a lot higher with that. When I was teaching some of my assistant pro, in my assistant pro roles, I hit the ceiling pretty quick. You have to spend a lot of time in the golf shop. You have the various duties that you have to do as assistant professional, and I had very limited time teaching. So throughout the years, I spent my passion was to figure out how I could get to teaching all the time. And so, that's what brought me down from North Carolina to Florida, was for this position to run the golf academy. And obviously within that, I've been teaching a lot, but the coaching and teaching part it's amazing because you're working with people all the time and you're getting a different challenge every day. No person is the same. They don't have the same goals. They don't have the same swing. And I always love a good challenge. And when you can help someone, no matter what their goal is, whether it's break 90 for the first time, or, a lot of my juniors I start with, they're in the hundreds when I get them and they're looking to play college golf. So we've got a lot of work to do. And so I really embrace that challenge. And I love being a part of their journey and seeing them just achieve whatever goal it is that they're looking to achieve. It's just really, really cool and exciting when they have that moment where they've, reached the whatever it was that they're striving for, and you're a part of it. And it's a really, really cool thing.
Nice. Yeah, you said it's cool to see your students, reach their goals. So for you as a coach, how rewarding is it for you to see your students succeed?
Oh my gosh, it's so rewarding. And to be honest, like my own rounds, I don't remember as much. Like somebody will be like, tell me about this round and this round. And I'm like, I can't remember it, but my students' rounds, I'll remember it. And it's just amazing because you see them light up, you see that big smile on their face. They're so happy. And just being a part of that, it's just special. And those are the memories that I really hold on to.
Yeah, so you host a golf podcast. Can you tell me a little bit about your podcast? And how did you know you wanted to start a golf podcast?
That's funny. Yeah. So I started the Coach Mo Golf Show last August. And when I started it, I didn't really know what I was doing or what I wanted to do. It just kind of has evolved into what it is. And I originally wanted to expand my knowledge. And so I think with golf instruction and teaching, it's not like you can just go grab a textbook and, learn how to teach. A lot of it is you need a lot of bodies in front of you. You need to be doing it often. And, I think one of the best ways to learn and grow is to learn from those ahead of you who've been successful and have done things before, and learn from them, and get yourself some good mentors and talk to them. And just through that and me kind of asking questions and learning that way, it was initially just for me to learn and grow. And then I was like, you know what? Like, I think this information I'm getting would be really helpful for other people, especially with like junior golf and recruitment. There's a lot of stuff and a lot of podcasts on professionals, but there's not as many things out there that I've seen that have been educational and informative and easy listening. So I was like, I could do that. It's fun for me to do the interviewing, but then I can also help other people get this information out. So that's kind of how I've gotten into it, and it's just evolved, and I've had a really fun time doing it. It's one of those things where when I started doing it, I wasn't sure. Like, I didn't know how to do it. I was asking some people, like, where do I buy this? How do I do that? I had no idea, like, just kind of winging it. And throughout my experience doing that, I've kind of learned, and I've probably gotten a little bit better. If you go back to episode 1, you're going to be like, wow, that was probably like terrible, but it's just fun, so.
Yeah, I also do my YouTube channel mostly just to promote golf, and Yeah, I do mostly, college golf. There's a couple people, back of the range, also scrambling. I think his name's Dylan. There's a couple people who do podcasts out there and I've watched them, but
Yeah.
not too many people do it. So that's why also I got into doing this. It's
Yeah, and
kind of
I
fun.
think it's cool you're doing this because I've listened to a couple of your shows and you've had some good guests on too. And I think it's
Yeah.
a cool way to, if people aren't reading a lot, like it's a cool they tune on the podcast, while you're driving or whatever. It's a cool way to get information and learn new things.
Yeah. So can you tell me, on your podcast, you've had so many great guests. So how do you get into contact and, set up the interviews with, all the great guests you have on your podcast?
Good question. So I think a lot of my guests are Furman grads. So that's where I went to college, and it's a really small private school, but it's tight knit and there's this
Yeah.
community and they call it Furman family. And so I think all us Paladins look out for one another, and a lot of them, through golf, Furman women's golf has had a lot of great female golfers come through there, and just through that I've been able to have a lot of good guests. And then I think just, through my experience networking and growing up, I haven't really reached out to anyone that I don't know too much yet. So, I'm looking to kind of reach out and get some other new guests on there. I brought a lot back from season one into season two because in the past year, they've had a lot of growth. And so I think it's cool for people who maybe tuned into season one and listened to a guest to hear what's new for season two. So I've got a couple cool guests coming up and a really good one launching on Monday with Dawn Woodard. And then I've got Dottie Pepper coming back. She's always a great one. And then Tiffany Abbott, who is, I had her on the show last year. She was at Cal State University Bakersfield, and now she's at Stanford, the director of golf operations. So that's a huge kind of jump for her. So I'm excited to kind of see her growth and talk to her about her new position.
Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong. Didn't Dottie Pepper go to Furman, or did she not?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes, she
okay.
did. She is one of the Hall of Famers there. She's had after Furman, she won 17 times on the LPGA tour and two major wins, I think 6 Solheim Cup appearances. So she is one of the major studs to come out of Furman.
Nice. That's awesome. So
Yeah.
what are some goals that you have for your podcast? How do you see your podcast, growing and evolving?
Um, you know, that's a good question. And being that I have my full-time career and job, this is something I do just for fun, kind of on the side. So I don't necessarily know that I have any set goals in my head. But I would like it to just keep going and just see what kind of guests I can get on here and what can kind of evolve from it. But it's kind of one of those whatever happens, happens, and I'm on the ride and just trying to enjoy it.
Nice. Awesome. Yeah, so I see you started golf at the age of 10. So can you just talk a little bit about your start in the game of golf, how your coach that you had, growing up led to you developing a lifelong passion for the game?
True. So I actually golf was one of the last sports I picked up. So I was really big into basketball, soccer. I even did baseball, softball. And so I was in I was born and raised in Connecticut. And so I was more into those sports. And then I remember right before I was moving to North Carolina, my aunt and uncle, they took me to the driving range. And I was 9 years old and I hit the ball. And I guess I had hit it pretty good, but to my standards, I didn't hit it good. So I when we moved to North Carolina, we moved on to Duckwoods Country Club, and my backyard was the 7th green of that country club. And so my grandparents, my parents, and I were all kind of starting at the same time. They got me this old set of clubs. It was actually a set of Sears clubs. I don't even know if anybody knows what those are or existed, but they were old, like old clubs. And I would just go kind of pitter patter around in the backyard, and I thought I sucked. And I was just like, I just didn't like being bad at it. Grew up pretty athletic and I love sports. And so I just asked my parents if I could get a golf lesson. And so they let me get a golf lesson, and Tommy Wine was my first golf coach. And I just got the bug, and I literally every day I figured out a way I would ride my bike every day to the golf course, and this is before cell phones. So you just came back when it was pitch black dark, and I found a way with my bike. I took one of my parents' like pull carts, and I bungee corded it to the back of my bike rack on my bike, and I made like a trailer, and I just rode my bike with my clubs down to the golf course every single day, and just came home when it was dark. And I was so I just caught the bug, and my parents never pushed me. They never did. I've always pushed myself. And so, with Tommy's help, he was my first coach, and he just seemed to believe in me and got me on the right track. And, as an adult, who I could just tell as a kid he cared about me, which meant a lot. And I think when I was a kid, at that moment, I remember being 11 years old, telling my parents like I wanted to play college golf and later on professional golf, and they were just like, no, okay, honey, whatever, whatever you want, like not thinking it was going to happen. But when I say something, I want to do it. I'm the kind of person, I get it done and I go do it. So it was just a mission of mine really early on.
Yeah, so I live in Connecticut. Where did you grow up in Connecticut, and what courses did you play growing up?
So when I was in Connecticut, I didn't play. But later
Okay.
on, circled back, I moved back to Connecticut when I was 26. But
Mhm. Okay.
Richter Park
Hmm.
was one. And
Yeah, in
I was in
Danbury. Hmm.
yeah, I'm originally from Danbury and New Fairfield, Connecticut.
Okay.
So
Hmm.
as we continue on this podcast, you'll probably hear the rest of my story, but did a lot of
Yeah.
moving around.
Mhm. Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you played college golf at Furman. Can you just talk about your experience playing college golf at Furman and what drew you to Furman mostly?
Good question. So, by my junior and senior year in high school, I was getting pretty good at golf at the high school level, and I was getting some offers, to play on certain teams. I think I got 7 full ride scholarship offers back then, and but in my mind, I had wanted to go to somewhere where the academics were going to be recognized, like a good academic school. And so I had originally really wanted to go to Wake Forest, and I had a full ride offer to Wake Forest. So Furman wasn't on my radar until later. And the summer, I think the summer before senior year, I was playing in an AJGA at Furman. And so that was the first time I really kind of heard of it, and I didn't know much about it. And I played pretty well there, and got to meet Mick Potter, who was the Furman coach at the time. And the school is it's gorgeous, it's beautiful. And so as I did my research, I'm like, wow, it's like a small private school. They've got really good academics. Holy cow, look at all these amazing like female professionals that come out of there, like Betsy King, Beth Daniel, Dottie Pepper. And I just I didn't know about Furman before. But as soon as I kind of played at that AJGA, it was on my radar. And, then the recruiting process, we're going through it. And I came down to be a really tough decision for me, because forever I'd wanted to go to Wake and I had a full ride offer. And I wrote out my pros and cons list. And what it really came down to was Coach Mick. I really enjoyed meeting him and talking with him, and I just really felt comfortable. And I thought I wanted to be a part of that Furman legacy of amazing women golfers that came out of there. And so when it came down to it, I made the decision, and it was one of the toughest decisions of my life, but I chose to go to Furman. And it was an amazing school, and I know Wake Forest is just as amazing. So um it's it just felt right in my heart. Like I just had to follow what my gut was telling me.
Yeah, so tell me about your recruiting process, when you were, choosing to go to college. Would you reach out to coaches, or would coaches reach out to you? And did you go on any, recruiting trips, touring campuses or anything like that?
Sure. So back then, it's different than it is now. We didn't have social media, so you would get like a letter in the mail. And you would write, and email kind of just started then too. So you could email back and forth, but it wasn't like it is today. So you would get a lot of handwritten stuff or typed stuff in the mail. and then emails and phone calls. So I remember like June 15th now is the day like coaches can call you. And I just remember, I don't think I had a cell phone then. So like when you got home on your home phone at your house, I just remember going home and there was a million like messages left on the voicemail from college coaches saying, hey, we'd like to talk about your possibility of coming to school here. And, you just kind of connected with them and, figured out what you wanted to do. But like I said, like I wasn't wanting to go to a big school. So like the big schools that were reaching out to me, I was courteous and returned calls and whatnot, but it wasn't where I wanted to go.
Yes, while you're at Furman, you got one individual win and two team wins. So what was it like to get that, individual win and those two team wins during your college career?
Yeah, the individual win, so that was my sophomore year, and it the feeling was amazing. And at the time, Jenny Sue was one of my teammates and roommates, and she's a phenomenal player. She was the number one. And she motivated me to work harder. And sophomore year, I got really, really serious about my game, and everything, my studies. That semester, that fall term semester, I was gung ho, and just one of those days, I just had a really good tournament, and it was a strong field. I remember there were 25 D1 teams in the field, and it was like number two. I think Auburn was number two then. They were in the field. Florida, Florida State, Michigan State. I think Tulane was there. It was a pretty stacked field, so it felt amazing to do that. I mean, I was in awe. I couldn't believe I did it. Like I pretty much blacked out when I played. Like I can't remember a lot of things. I know I played lights out the first 2 days. I was 5 under after 2 rounds, and the third day I was struggling. I just couldn't hit the greens. I was having to make a lot of up and downs. I was playing kind of scrappy golf, and I honestly didn't think I was going to win because we didn't have live scoring then. So you just played, and you didn't know till you got in the clubhouse. And so, I played my guts out, and I really didn't think I had enough just because I wasn't under par that final round, because I'd gone 69, 70, and then 74. So I didn't think I made it. And when I got in, I was just shocked to find out that I won. But it was cool. And it's one of those things that, it means so much because you earned it. Anything where you pour your heart and soul into and you earn it, there's nothing that beats that, in my opinion. So
Nice. That's awesome. Yeah, I know winning a college tournament is very difficult. So definitely, yeah.
yeah. And there's a lot of great people who've won numerous tournaments. I won my one event, but I will I will gladly take it.
Well, I've never won any golf tournament. I'm pretty mediocre, so I think that's very impressive. Mhm.
Well, never say never.
Yeah.
There's always events out there, and you can win at any level. So,
Yeah. So, final question about your college career. What did you enjoy most about college golf, and also what did you enjoy most about playing for and representing Furman?
when I look back on it now, I think I just didn't recognize how cool and awesome it was. Like, I think when you're a kid and you're in college, you're you're just more like self-absorbed and you're oblivious to everything going around you. And I think now that I'm grown up, I have a much better perspective. I think I wasted a lot of my time. I think I could have done so much better. I think I could have dedicated myself better. So when I look back on myself, I just wish right now I had a second chance to do it over again, because I would just pour everything into it and not get so sidetracked by, the social activities. And I was in a sorority too. So I just felt like college, there's just all of these things that you're not used to dealing with. And I just didn't know how to manage it well. So I had a really good time. I had a lot of fun. I wish my playing career would have been better though. I wish I invested in that more, because it's one of those things that, being a part of a team, and like that and representing it means a lot. And I feel like honestly I could have done a better job of that.
Yeah, so take me back to Connecticut. So you just finished up at Furman, then you go back to Connecticut. So, tell me about your time, going back to Connecticut after college, and also how did you end up back in Connecticut after college?
Well, good question. So I didn't end up there in a good situation. So when I was 26 years old, I was battling some major health issues. And so I was diagnosed with liver failure. And so I was in need of a liver transplant. So what brought me back to Connecticut was to go to Yale Medical to get on the transplant list. While I was there, I had a crazy story. When I was in the hospital, they accidentally nicked my liver, and I was bleeding out and had lost my pulse 4 times in 4 hours. So it really expedited my illness. And I got shot up to the transplant list, and miraculously, the same night I got on the transplant list, they found a match for me. So I originally was ill. So I had something called factor V Leiden and Bud Carey. So I basically had blood clotting issues, and I had a clot in my hepatic vein that goes to and from my liver. And so 2 weeks before my liver was failing, I was playing soccer. So at 20, in my 20s, I played year-round soccer in an adult league. We played fall, winter was indoor, spring and summer. And so it was just kind of a shock to me, being an athlete all my life, that my liver was failing, being that I was so active. And I had been like feeling sick that winter, on and off, on and off, on and off. And I just thought it was like this nagging flu. And then I became jaundiced, and that was kind of like the sign that, I was really, really sick, and I was fighting it. I was stubborn as hell. I didn't think I was sick or needed help. And finally, my friends and family were like, you need to go. And when I went to the hospital in South Carolina, that's where I initially was. I was living in Greenville. They told me I was going to have to get a transplant, and I couldn't get one in Greenville. So that's when I got connected back up north to Connecticut, where I originally am from. And luckily, one of my cousins' moms was a nurse and knew uh, one of the transplant doctors. And so I was able to get a connection in at Yale, and get interviewed to go to Yale. And so while I was in there, it was crazy and chaotic. And when they nicked my liver and I got my liver, um normally you'd be okay, you'd be in there 10 days and then you're discharged. Well, when I was in there recovering from my transplant, they found a fungal infection in my brain. And so that was honestly a million times worse than a transplant. It's very scary. You can't survive with fungus in your brain. I didn't know I had it because they were saying, I hear a lot of stories about the hospital. At that point, I was kind of out of commission. So, things like where they're like, what's your name? What's the present? What's the date? I couldn't answer those questions. My family and friends say it was like, deer in headlights, just saying yes, ma'am on repeat. So I had a lot of cognitive issues. And so they knew something was wrong in my head. And, they did an MRI, and that's when they found the fungal infection in my brain, which is called it's called aspergillus. They called it invasive aspergillus. So it's basically aspergillus is an airborne fungus, and you breathe it in. And I guess while I was on so many steroids and immunosuppressed and in the hospital, somehow it got into my bloodstream. And when it got into my bloodstream, it located in the occipital lobe of my brain. So that required an immediate brain surgery. They got, I think, 90% of it out the first brain surgery. And then they had hooked me up to they hooked me up to IV, and I was getting pumped this medication called amphotericin every day, and voriconazole, because those are both antifungals. And they were obviously wanted to try to get rid of it without being invasive again. But I think we did that about a week or so, and then I was gonna have to have a second brain surgery. So I had my liver transplant on May 3rd, 2012. I had my first brain surgery on May 23rd, 2012. And then I had my second brain surgery on June 1st, 2012. So it was a roller coaster. And I, like I said, I I didn't know a lot of times what was going on. I was very lucky to have my family and my friends there. I'm gonna try not to cry, get a little choked up, but they were amazing. And my medical team, they cared about me so much. I've never met doctors who cared so much for their patients and their nurse and the nurses. And um yeah, my aunt was my rock. She funny story. So there was this one time where I my aunt told me, so when they, I think this was when they nicked my liver, and they weren't sure. I was losing my pulse and getting it back. And excuse me. She said the doctors let her in the operating room with me. And there she said there must have been 20 doctors in the operating room. And she said I'd been unconscious, and she said she excuse me, she grabbed my hand, and she said, she's like, sorry, it's so hard for me. She was like, Monique, you're gonna have to fight these next 2 hours. You're gonna have to fight the most you've ever had to fight your entire life. But like, you're an athlete, you can do it. I'm right here for you. And she said I squeezed her hand. And it's crazy. Excuse me. It's crazy because I I had this I don't know if it was a dream or whatnot, but when she told me that story, I I had seen it. Like, I was standing above the situation in the operating room, like seeing it from a different perspective. And I heard her. So um it was crazy. But sorry, it's still hard for me.
Thank you very much, Coach Mel, for being so open and vulnerable. You got me choked up as well. Okay.
I
I mean,
try not, I don't talk about it a lot because it it takes me back. But it's I'm very grateful for my family, my friends, my doctors.
yeah. Well, I don't know what to say, but you're just really incredible, amazing person. You've gone through more than I can ever imagine in my life. So, you know, just I
Thanks.
really appreciate it. Yeah, I really appreciate you being so open and vulnerable about it. Really.
I don't know that I wanted to be, it just happened.
So yeah, yeah, you got me. Well, you know, yeah, just when you go through something like that in your life, obviously very, major medical issue, how does that change your outlook on life? I'm sure every day you're grateful.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, it changes everything. The things that you're used to complaining about and whining about, or you just see things in a totally different light. Everything is grateful, everything's an opportunity. The glass is more half full, it's never empty anymore. And you never know what's going to happen. Never in my life did I think I was going to be fatally ill in my mid-20s. You think you have your whole life ahead of you. And that just kind of came out of left field for me to get that sick. So it just keeps me on my toes. I respect each day. I don't take it for granted. And I really try to every day pour in everything I got, no matter what I'm doing. If it's coaching, if it's on the podcast, if it's, doing my spreadsheets for work, whatever it is, and it's in front of me, I try to give it my best. So, because you just never know.
Yeah, well, you're a really amazing person. And yeah, you have incredible stories. Thank you very much for all that.
I I am, as much as that
Mhm.
getting sick is not something you want to happen to you. I'm actually honestly blessed because it's changed so many things for the better. And I again, like, before I was sick, I had an amazing network of people, and I could not have done it without them. So, like, thanking me, I was mostly just laying there trying to get better. But it was all the people around me who lifted me up. They're just really amazing people in my life that I'm really grateful for.
Yeah, I've only gone through things like breaking my leg or breaking collarbone or arm, but never, those things don't compare to anything you've gone through in your life. Yeah. Can you talk
Everybody
to
has their own story.
Mhm. Yeah, can you talk to me about your passion for, advocating for organ donation and, all the things you've done for, advocating for organ donation?
Sure. So after I had my transplant, I obviously I wanted to give thanks to my organ donor. And the process is you go through, at the time in Connecticut, you go through the New England Organ Bank and you write a letter to the family and you say you wish to contact them, and they can either have the choice to accept your letter and write back or whatnot. It's completely up to them and in their hands. And I've tried to reach out on several occasions to my donor and have not gotten any luck in contacting them. So to this day, I have an anonymous donor. I don't know who they are. And so because I've never been able to kind of give thanks to them personally, after my transplant, I was on a mission to give back. And so I became involved with the American Liver Foundation and Donate Life Connecticut at the time. And the American Liver Foundation had a liver life walk every year in Stamford. And so my family came up with the team name of Just Say Mo. And so that's what stuck. And we got, all the shirts, matching shirts, and we would walk and raise money and donate it to American Liver Foundation. And then Donate Life, I was involved with a lot of their stuff. They asked me to go speak at a lot of hospitals, to doctors and nurses, and people on the medical staff about organ donation and share my story. So I was doing a lot of public speaking, doing that. And then when I moved to North Carolina, I was, working at Wakefield Plantation, and I just felt like with golf, I could do something else. And so I'd asked my boss at the time, Adam McLaughlin, if I could have a Donate Life charity golf event at Wakefield. And so I connected Donate Life in North Carolina, and I put on, with the help of friends and, the staff and the members, I put on a whole charity golf event. And I think after all the costs, like Donate Life, we netted $11,000 for charity in our first year. And that was awesome. That was one of the coolest things. And I think one of the craziest things is my transplant Dr. Rodriguez, and he was from Yale. He did my transplant at Yale, and the most amazing doctor in the world. And I know there's other people out there who say their doctors are amazing, but I'm telling you, he cared so much, and he would text me and check in on me and do all this stuff. Well, by the time I had moved to North Carolina, he had moved to Utah, and I kid you not, he flew to my charity golf event, played in it, and was a guest speaker. And it moved everyone. I mean, he moved, I could not keep it together. I cried so hard that day. It was amazing. Like I can't imagine, like these guys have their own families, they're doctors at these very busy hospitals, and he got on a plane and flew to my charity golf event in North Carolina. It was insane. But so that's kind of how I've gotten involved in it, and just be an advocate of it. And I need to figure out and do something here in Florida. I haven't quite got that yet because I've been trying to get my feet on the ground with my career, but I'd like to find something to do here where I could give back and get involved with organ donation again.
Yeah, we're both sad right now, but I'll try to lighten the mood. Get back into your golf career. Can you tell me about, the various golfing positions that you've held in Connecticut? Like what courses you've worked at,
In
all
Connecticut,
that. Yeah.
yeah. So I was at first at Richter Park. And so, when I was recovering from my transplant, I was on full disability for 2 years, so I couldn't work. So my stamina and my energy was really down. And so I just started volunteering at Richter Park at their first tee program. Then as I kind of built my stamina up, they brought me into work in the golf shop. And then it was going to be, and I was doing some junior camps. Then it was going to be winter time and the golf course shuts down in Connecticut, as you know, many of them do. So then I started working at Dick's Sporting Goods in the golf department. And I was working with Brian Messier, and he was awesome. He showed me how to regrip clubs. He showed me how to cut down. He showed me how to build clubs from scratch. He was an unusual gentleman to work in a Dick's Sporting Goods because usually it's a bunch of kids, but he was a very experienced professional golfer. And so I learned a lot from him. And then after a little bit there, I applied to Tamarack Country Club in Greenwich, Connecticut, and I landed that job, and that job opened up the doors for me. It's a really nice private club. Bobby Farrell was the head pro who hired me and gave me that opportunity. And then working with Ryan Callista, who is now the head pro there, he just took me under his wing and really mentored me, and was like, make sure everything I do, you follow everything I do and say. And I just listened to him and I did that. And then after about 2 years there, the job security is so good there that nobody moves around. And I was like ready to get out of that role as assistant pro and kind of evolve more. And so I had applied to every job that I could in North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, and Florida. And that's how I landed at TPC Wakefield Plantation in Raleigh. And then so I was there for 2 years, and I learned a lot. That's where I really got to teach a lot, is at Wakefield. Josh Points originally hired me, and he worked for Jim McLean, and he was a big teaching guy. And a lot of professionals or managers and head pros and whatnot, directors of golf, are big into like golf shop merchandise and golf operations and whatnot. But Josh was really big on learning how to teach. And he taught me that there was a big value in that. So that's where I got into teaching a lot. And then as I wanted to teach more and more, that position at Wakefield at the time was, a more balanced role. It was a lot of operations with some teaching, and, I wanted to teach a lot more. So then that's how the opportunity in Florida came about.
Nice. Yeah. So after Connecticut, yeah, you went down to Florida, to St. John's. Can you just tell me,
Uh,
how did you end up in Florida? What is it like for you to be in Florida? I'm sure, you don't miss the Connecticut winters.
no, so I had gone, yeah, it's funny. I did full circle 2 times. So I was born and raised in Connecticut till
Mhm.
10. And
Yeah.
then 10 to age 14, I was in North Carolina on the Outer Banks. And then I moved to
Mhm.
Florida for high school. So I
Okay.
went to Nice High School in St. Johns County. And then I left Florida after high school to go to college at Furman. I stayed there until I was ill, and then I moved back up to Connecticut. And then as I just mentioned, I went from Connecticut to Raleigh, and then the position to run the golf academy opened up, and that's how I got back down to Florida. So I did 2 full swoops up and down. And so I am happy to be back in Florida. I love the warm weather. Ever since I moved away from Connecticut, I never wanted to be back there. I have family and friends up there, but the weather and just Florida, the quality of life, I feel so much better here. I love being outside. Um, I love having year-round access to golf and the kind of stuff we do on the beach. So between that and the job opportunities, and my family is here, that all of that kind of brought me back down here.
Yeah, I miss the year-round golf living here in Connecticut. So I grew up in Arizona, and yeah, I've only played one round of golf in the last month. So yeah,
Oof.
you don't get to play much in Connecticut with work and rain and other things like that.
Yeah. Have you ever
Yeah.
played at Richter Park?
No, I have not. But
That's one of the best. They used to be ranked top 100 public golf course in the country.
oh wow. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good track.
Yeah, I mostly just play at my home course, Great River in Milford.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, the
Sacred Hearts home course. That's where I play mostly.
there you go.
Then I work at Yale, play at Yale, but Yale's course, but that's going under renovation, at least for the next year. I don't know if it's a year or two. But yeah.
Yeah, the course designer at Yale actually, that's a Charles Banks course, I believe, and he
Mhm.
designed Tamarack. So they're known for those
Okay.
big, large greens with the it's like a big kind of swale in the middle of the green. It's crazy.
Yeah, and I think the redesign, I think Gil Hands is doing it.
Oh, okay.
I believe so. I don't know if it's just for a year or 2 years, but yeah, so it's gonna be closed. But yeah. I have two more questions for you.
Sure.
Can you tell me about your passion for junior golf and your passion for growing the game of golf?
Yeah, so juniors, I love working with the juniors. I'm extremely passionate about the juniors, and I think it's stemmed from my coach when I was a kid. Like, he was so great with me, and I could tell he cared about me so much and was really involved in helping me, be successful. And so part of giving back now, I'm not a player myself, but what I can do is I can be that kind of coach for these kids. And it just means a lot to see them, when they come to you, hey, Coach Mel, I want to do this. I want to play in this tournament. I want to win this. I want to go to this school. Like, and they ask you to be a part of that journey, I think is just the coolest thing. And so I think that's why I love junior golf. And the kids, we have the academy, so I see them all the time. So when they're here and they're here for years and you kind of see them growing up, it's like they become like this little like family to you, and you really, I care about them, and I care, not just how their golf is, but I care like, what's going on at school, how's this going, like they talk to you and they open up to you, and you create a really cool connection with these kids. So I think that's why I love junior golf.
Mhm. Yeah, and how do you think we can get more juniors into the game of golf? And also, how do you think we can make the game of golf more fun for juniors?
That's a good question. I think access, it's
Mhm.
golf has the access is getting there. And I think it's just getting cooler. Like when I was growing up, there wasn't that many girls golfers. I happened to be one who was passionate about it, but I think you've got cool players like Lexi Thompson and now you got like a Rosang for this generation. You just got Nelly Corda, obviously. The girls, there's so many cool role models for them to kind of look up to and follow in their footsteps. So I think you're just going to see it growing and growing and growing. I think the more exposure that there is on women's golf, the ANWA is huge, and I've gone to that a couple of, I think the last 2 or 3 years, and it is one of the most amazing tournaments I've ever been to. And just to have those kind of events, and putting more out there, you're going to get more girls involved. You're going to see them wanting to work harder to try to achieve goals to get to these kind of events or play for this team or this or that. So I think the opportunity is getting there, and I think it just needs more and more exposure.